Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So Game of Thrones just confirmed that the title of episode 3 is going to be Oathbreaker, so I wanted to use that to lead off my Q&A today, but I've also got some news about what's going to be happening next week that I'll talk about at the end of the video. So here we go. I should also say just careful for spoilers for everything that's happened on the show so far. We'll be talking about a little bit of Season 6 stuff, but it's all been publicly announced, so technically not spoilers. But here we go, first question, leading it off. Lucas asks, Jaime's in the Riverlands with Brienne. I think he's going to kill the Freys with Brienne and Blackfish Tully. Well, you have to remember that the Tullys are on the opposite side of this from the Freys, so if they're going to kill one and the title of the episode is going to be Oathbreaker, then they probably wouldn't kill the other. Really what I think is going on here, and you probably guessed from the backdrop on my computer here, is that Brienne is going to have her Oathbreaker moment, her Kingslayer moment that Jaime had. Not only is the name of her sword Oathkeeper, one of Jaime's many nicknames is also Oathbreaker. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of Riverlands Jaime Brienne stuff happening in episode 3. But Oathbreaker, that episode title, applies to all of the storylines. So you're talking about Daenerys, you're talking about the stuff up at the wall. That to me is also really interesting. We'll have to talk about that when the episode actually drops. But one of the most fun things to do before episodes air is when you hear a title like Oathbreaker, you're like, what would that mean for Jon Snow's character? Or like, what would that mean for Tyrion's character? So just remember that when you're thinking about what episode titles mean. Next question, Pete asks, talking about the shorter Game of Thrones seasons, wouldn't this mean that the wall would have to come down at the end of season 6? That's definitely one of those things that I would be very surprised by, like, oh my god, I can't believe they did it this fast, but it's totally possible. I think it really just depends on how fast Daenerys' storyline moves, because I do think the wall will come down before Daenerys comes to Westeros with her army. Like, the wall will come down and everyone will be like, oh shit, we're totally screwed. Then in the 11th hour, Daenerys will ride in somehow. I can't wait for the scene where Daenerys tries to load all of those Dothraki and their horses onto ships to sail to Westeros. They have to get there somehow. Next question, Gordon asks, expert negotiating tactic by Dan and Dave, or just publicity. The timing around this premiere is a little too convenient. You're talking about them, maybe they're announcing shorter seasons to try and create some hype or try to bargain with HBO. I don't really think that's what's going on. From what I know about Dan and Dave personally, they don't really engage in shenanigans like that. Like, there's always bargaining that goes on behind the scenes. I don't think they would hijack a show in such a public way just to try and get more money or get fans more excited. Like, they wouldn't troll people that much. They do enjoy small jokes. Like, David Benioff a couple of seasons ago wore this funny R+L== polo shirt, but I think that's as far as they would take it in terms of winking from behind the camera. Next question, Gilmer asks, they could do some kind of huge movie later on that goes to the big screen. Well, the part of the problem with that is that HBO makes its money from subscriptions, and it would depend on how much money they thought they could make from a theatrical release. I think it'd be more likely that they would just do the final episodes as if it were like a giant big movie broken into a couple pieces, and then they would air that theatrically after it airs on TV. Right now, the broadcast industry seems to be moving more towards a video-on-demand model, like a Netflix model, so I don't think theatrical release would be their big go-to. But if you remember before Season 5 started, they did air a couple episodes theatrically. I think they just do another version of that. Next question, Loretta asks, honestly waiting for the Starks to finally be reunited. You and everybody else cannot wait to see some Starks get together on screen. I think there'll be at least one reunion this season. If there's any holdout this season, I think it's going to be Arya, just because she's got so much of that training montage that we see in the trailers. I think a lot of her season's going to be consumed with that, making the most of that second chance, getting her eyesight back. But just remember the title of that third episode, Oathbreaker. Even though I don't think that Arya is going to break her oath in the third episode, I don't think she's going to be stuck in Braavos for the rest of the series. Next question, Aesthetic asks, which character's story do you like the most? Jon Snow for me. Well, I'll say it changes from season to season. I was actually expecting Dark Sansa last season, so now that we're getting that, I'm expecting her to be my favorite character this year. Brienne is another one of my really favorite characters that originally I didn't really care that much about. Like, when I first read the books, it was between 2008 and 2011 before the show ever started, but then Gwendolyn Christie came along, and I was like, oh my god, this is so compelling, she's so amazing. So it does change over time. There'll be characters that I probably didn't care about a couple years ago that I might totally love after the series is done, just depending on how their stories play out. That's actually a good question for you guys. Let me know, was there a character that you didn't really care about before the TV show started that the TV show like doubled down on and you're now totally in love with? Next question, Jason asks, first time writing, here's this picture of what looks like the 4 horsemen leaders on the White Walkers. Here, I'll actually put the picture up right now. The one on the right looks like the White Walker Jon Snow killed last season with Longclaw at Hardhome. Did anyone else notice this? Well, if you remember, the White Walker that he killed was basically shattered into 1,000 pieces, so in the literal sense, it's not the same White Walker. I think that the makeup and the actor just looks very similar. As far as we know, all of the White Walkers, with the exception of the Night's King maybe, are those male children that Craster laid out in the woods as sacrifices. So you're basically looking at the sons of Craster who have been raised and turned into White Walkers. But there's still so much about their mythology that we don't know, so I think a lot of Winds of Winter is going to spell that out a little bit better. Next question, Shelby asks, not sure if anyone else noticed, but the men in the scene look like the Red Wedding, I'll put the picture up here again, are all in Lannister armor. Definitely looks like the same haul of the twins, mayhaps some revenge on the Freys this season. So there are a couple big Frey-related events in Dance with Dragons and Winds of Winter. If you've ever heard the phrase Frey pies, that also plays into that. It's not so much a Red Wedding type of event, but it is a revenge of sorts against the Freys for the Red Wedding in a really gruesome, amazing way. But it involves a bunch of characters that I don't know if the TV show is going to do, so they might be swapping a bunch of things here. We'll just have to wait and see. But don't worry, there will be some sort of payback for the Red Wedding in a really spectacular way, even if the show changes it just a little bit. Just remember the idea of a Frey pie. So excited about eating Frey pies, but thank you everyone for submitting questions. These are always a ton of fun to do. So here's the important stuff. First episode is going to drop next week. If you don't have it, I'd recommend using HBO Now. If that's not available to you, just be sure to check what options are available to you based on which country you live in. HBO actually does a really good job of dropping episodes all at the same time around the world. If you're watching on TV, sometimes there's like a couple hours time delay because of time zones, but even if you have to wait a couple hours to watch it, it's only a couple hours. It's not like you have to wait weeks and weeks to watch an episode after everyone else. If you're new to my channel and you don't really know how my Game of Thrones videos work in the season, typically I do like a bonus video on like a really specific topic, something from history. Then I'll do a video for each of the episodes, and then I'll do like a Q&A video. There's a giveaway every week, and I'll actually say congratulations to this week's giveaway winner, Ron Smith. I'm sure I'm butchering your name, but you win a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. That's just on the About page. And what'll happen with the giveaways is that, usually those will start whenever I post like a bonus video, and they'll just stay open till I post the Q&A video. So I'm going to try and do 3 videos a week just like I did last season. If for some reason I get hit by a bus and I'm not able to do that, I'll just be sure to let everybody know on the channel as well as on social. If you don't know what my social links are, Twitter is Awesome Emergency and Facebook is facebook.com/emergencyawesome. You can follow me there for updates. I post a bunch of small edits there too. But as for this week, I'm not really expecting like a giant big trailer to drop, but I think the Game of Thrones is going to be posting some more EPK. If there's anything really cool, I'll do a video for it. But otherwise, it'll just be a normal bonus video. So next Sunday, shit gets real. It is going to be awesome. If you guys have no idea what's going on with the shorter seasons, you can click here to learn all about that. We're still getting 8 seasons likely, but they're just going to compress them a little bit. And you can click here for the last big trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.